the 17th Sunday of Ordinary Time. For the next, including today, for 5 weeks, we're going to be in John's Gospel. We've been in Mark, but the church moves the Gospel to chapter 6. And it's a long, 5 readings, 5 sections of just chapter 6. And so I'm putting it in terms of a play. And a play, a drama, has an inciting incident, something that begins the action. And then the play moves on in character development and action to a climax. So we're going to have 5 acts, if you will, that begins today. So that and I highly recommend reading the first reading, Exodus, because it is part of the play that the Jews freed from Egypt now are in another kind of prison in the desert, and they're grumbling and they're hungry and they want food. And they get it in the quails and in the manna. So that's about the feeding God. Okay, now the gospel. We're just going to set the scene in today's homily. It's in the book of signs, so we have to talk about signs, and it's in the middle chapter, chapter 6, beginning really in chapter 2 through 12. And signs are hints or invitations or gestures or actions that you can see them and then see beyond them or not. And that's what we will be facing in the rising action, the discussions and the ultimate conclusion. So here they are. Last week, as you know, in Mark's Gospel, the apostles had just returned, and they go off and they want some rest, but the crowd comes. In Mark's Gospel, right after that is the feeding of the 5,000 in Mark's Gospel. So that's why the church turns to chapter 6 in John, because it's going to be about the feeding. And you can call this a Eucharistic chapter. We'll expand that a little bit. So the people have come because they saw signs that he healed the sick, and they want more of Jesus. They want more of his power and his miraculous works, mighty deeds as they call them. So there they are, thousands of them. They're all hungry for more power. But Jesus sees them and says, they're going to be hungry. So it's going to be a sign, a miracle, which is an invitation to believe or not. Okay. So he has them recline, and they have 5 loaves and 2 fish, but what are these among so many? And he shows them. I have the power. The rising action, it starts here. They have a lot of food, and they have even leftovers for tomorrow. Well, maybe they want even more different signs, more, not just bread and fish, but how about wine? You made water into wine. Can you make some water here in the desert places? Here in the Galilee Sea, can we make some wine out of that? So they want more and more, and that's going to be the rising action. And Jesus feeds them, and they collect it, and he sends them away. They want more and more signs that they are God's cared for people. Now we have to set John's gospel. Remember, John is written 50, 60, 70 years after Matthew, Mark, and Luke. So he's got a Eucharistic community. And he has people coming and going, Jewish followers who are attracted to Jesus, who have seen the signs, but they drift away. They go back. So the gospel is written to confront, here's a sign. Do you follow me or not? Are you with me or not? Or are you just interested in having more signs? And they want to carry him away as a power machine, as a miracle worker, and eventually to reestablish Israel. Because by the time John's gospel is written, the temple has been destroyed by the Romans and the Jews have been scattered. Okay, that's the beginning of the gospel. And there's not going to be much in the next weeks, Sunday's Gospels. There's not going to be much except the invitation to buy into Jesus. And it's going to be Eucharistic, yes. We just had the Eucharistic Congress here in the United States. Big event. Much about Jesus' real presence in the Eucharist. And we'll talk about that in the weeks to come. What I invite us to, so now we're at the beginning, the initiating. The rising action will be, what does this all mean to the religious leaders? That he has escaped being religious king, or military king, or political king. He escapes from them and sends them away. He actually, and we don't have it, he sends them out on the lake. And then they get all fussed up because of a storm, and it's night, and bad things happen at night, and Jesus comes to them. The question is going to be, not do we believe in the Eucharist, not do we believe that Jesus was a miracle maker. The real challenge for us is Jesus real? Is he present now? Not just in the Eucharist, but present in inviting us to more and more of the living. And we're going to talk about the Eucharist in weeks to come. But it's more, can you take Jesus in? Is he more than a sign? Yes, he was a sign and they saw him, but is he a person? We talk about the real presence in the Eucharist, but is he a real presence in our lives? And am I a real presence in the lives of others? Or do I just want Jesus for power? I'll believe in Jesus just so he keeps feeding me with bread and fish, keeps healing me, keeps doing what I want. Is it all about me? Yeah, Jesus is all about me. But if I'm all about me, Jesus is kind of an observer, a distant observer. So these weeks of August, late July, August, it's about the intensity with which Jesus wants to be with us. He wants to be with the hungry, wants to be with the needy. He had looked on them like they were lost sheep. Well, we are dignified by his finding us. Can we let him find us? We receive the Eucharist to be his real presence. The transformation of the bread and wine, the transformation of us. That's where we're going in the rising action of the next Gospels.